Yes, start.
Uh, Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Neeraj Kumar, and I am lead Azure Cloud Architect. I've been conducting Azure Talk for quite a while now. I think I have conducted more than 15 sessions on Azure Talk, and this is in continuation to our previous discussion, our previous sessions that we had on networking. And we covered Express Route VPN and different connectivity model. Now, today we are going to talk about Azure DNS, the four components of Azure networking. Azure DNS, which is the name solution service from Azure, and then Traffic Manager. We'll also talk about Application Gateway and Azure Load Balancer. And after all this, we will, straight away dive into the demo. And today I have invited Lalit Rawat, who is Cloud Technical Specialist, and he is going to, go ahead and cover these topics that I talked about you. So, please welcome Lalit on our Azure Talk. Lalit, to you.
Thanks, Neeraj. Thanks for your introduction. And hi guys. This is Lalit here, and I'll be starting this session it's really appreciated. Neeraj has given me a chance to just go ahead and do this session for me. And so I'll just start the session here, and we'll talk about what's the differences between Azure DNS and the on-prem DNS, and how we'll go ahead and configure it, and what could be the possibilities and the benefits of the Azure, or the limitations would be there. So basically, Azure DNS, as the DNS name it seems, is a DNS name server, which is just used to resolve host name to the IP address, or the web translate over the public IP address, or the websites, and it is hosted in Azure. So we can say as a software as a services as well. And apart from that, it has the features which the Azure DNS will provide. It's a reliability, performance, and the seamless integration. Just you have to click, and then you will be able to just go ahead and create the things. So suppose
Lalit,
yes.
we have a problem with your voice. Is that the problem with everybody, or it's just Vishal?
I have still volume issue.
Same issue?
Yeah, Lalit voice is noisy too much.
Okay.
Some background noise is coming.
So, Lalit, can you check your microphone?
Sure. Now it is fine. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear.
Now it is fine.
Yeah, seems better.
All right, let's go ahead. Continue.
Yes. So these are the major features, and if it comes with the security, it's have more security things over there. And apart from that, the DNS zones limitation for Azure subscription. You can just go ahead and create the 100 zones per subscription, and 5,000 records, and the 20 sets of records per records. And basically, if you just come about the diagram over here, and if the A user wanted to if you need to browse in www.cloudaz.com, then how it will be performed. First of all, when this user wanted to connect from your laptop to particular websites, how it will go. So first of all, it just head to the local DNS server, and which is be there in your organization. Then it will just, if the DNS server has the cache, then it just search the cache and route it to your websites. If it is not, then it just go to the root domain here, and the root domain server will guide you where and which website has to be hit. So the first, it just go to and collect the data from your DNS server, which is here, and then send back the request to the user, and then from your computer, this DNS server will tell where's the address, and then it will just go ahead and connect to the web apps. here. So basically this is the funda would be there in Azure, and the similar way if you just going and creating the things in on premises, you need in hardware, and then the software you need to install Azure DNS, Azure DNS on that, and you have to create the records, the primary
So maybe I
DNS.
can,
Yes.
yeah, I can just add on to here. So Azure DNS is like, is an offering from Microsoft, which helps you to host any, internet-based domain or zones that you would purchase from any of the domain registrar. Today, Microsoft Azure DNS doesn't allow you to purchase a public domain name. You have to buy from other public registrar. But once you have bought that name, like, in my case, I bought cloudeasy.com. I can configure Azure DNS to manage, delegation. Sorry, manage, that zone for me, and I can set up delegation. So in that case, all my, query will get redirected to Azure DNS server, and from Azure DNS server, those records will get translated into IP. And as you know, DNS is a domain naming
आ जाएगा
system.
बाहर जान दो.
DNS is a domain naming system which helps you translate a human readable name, like, a website name like www.cloudeasy.com or www.contoso.com to the public IP or to the IP. And this is a job of a DNS server. So Azure DNS does it for public domain that you have on onto internet. Plus also it also provides name resolution if you have virtual machines within the same VNet. However, when you come on-prem, you will have to set up your own DNS server. You can set that up. Windows 2012 or 2016 has a DNS service which runs on Windows operating system, and you can configure that. So that will take care of name resolution within your organization. And you can have internal DNS server which will resolve servers internally, and then you can have the external DNS server, which is this DNS server which is on the public domain, which will resolve any of the public resources or public URL on to internet. So this Azure DNS is an offering from Microsoft, which is meant for managing your public domain name and the records inside that. And again, you cannot register your own domain name via Azure DNS, but once you have registered it, you can come and manage those zones inside the Azure DNS server. Back to you, Lalit.
Yes, Neeraj. So apart from that, I'll just show you one diagram how it will work. So basically, this is the diagram over here. If the user is there, then it just search into the local DNS server, and then it will go to the root name server, and the root name server, suppose you are just querying to www.cloudeasy.com and it does not find any cache or any name over here, then this local DNS server will route it to the root domain server, which is root domain server is nothing but like it's .com, .in, .net, and the similar way it has 7 or 8 root servers .net up. So it just find it out. It just go to the .com. I did not able to find that cloudeasy.com. Then the .com will say, okay, that IP address, the public IP address has changed, or probably it is not with you. Then it just send, okay, this is the IP address or the packet or probably the IP address. Then it will be coming into the local DNS server, and the local DNS server will send that request to your internet name server.
Lalit, can you just a quick thing? Can you maximize this window?
Sure.
Thank you.
Now it's fine.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the local DNS server will just go ahead and connect to your internet .net server, name server, which will just find it out. Okay, this IP address has been assigned to this particular address, and then send it back to your local DNS server. And then local DNS server then send out, okay, it has all the details, and it will be routed to your Azure DNS partner if it is hosted into the Azure or whatever the like probably primary or the secondary and all, then just send it across to your records and find out the NS record or the A record. A record is nothing but it's just the address record which is associated with your with your websites, and then it will be finding out through DNS. And the NS record is a name server record which is used for that. Suppose you have a cloudaz.com and that IP address would be associated with it, and it will finally validate all the things and then send the information to the user, and it will directly connect to your cloudaz.com. So the DNS server would be working in this way.
Yeah. So like, the way it works is to keep it very simple. So you have a user, he or she wants to resolve a name. Now, you don't know whether it is your intranet resource or it's an internet resource. So, first your user will talk to your local DNS server, which is running on a domain controller if it is Azure, if it is Active Directory integrated, and if it is a local, name resolution that should happen. So the local DNS server itself will resolve and provide the result to user. But if it's not a local resource and it's on internet, so let's say it's CloudEasy, www.cloudeasy.com. So this local DNS server will forward that request to the internet root server. So root servers host the top level domain. We have called TLD, we have called SLD. TLD is your .com. So com is your top level domain. And then CloudEasy, your SLD, which is second level domain. So first it will go, your local DNS server will forward it to the root name server, which you see on the right side on the top, which serves the com top level domain. And then, that guy will say that, hey, I don't have the record for CloudEasy, but I do know who has, hosted this. So that will send it to, cloudeasy.com, and, it will come to, so in my case, I have bought it from GoDaddy.com. So it will go to GoDaddy DNS server, and from GoDaddy DNS server, will say that, hey, I see that, this domain is configured as a delegated zone to Azure DNS server. So please go and talk to the Azure DNS server, and, Microsoft has 4 name servers, and then it will forward that query to your Azure DNS server, and then from there it will serve the record for your domain name. So that's how it works. So it works in like in harmony. So you have local DNS server, and then you have root DNS servers, and then you have your internet provider name server which hosts your domain name, and then you have your Azure DNS. So that's how it works in a complete package. All right, thank you. All right, back to you, Lali.
Sure. So now we just completed the DNS server, and let's move to the Azure Traffic Manager. And basically, as it shows with its name, is a traffic manager. It's used to manage the traffic.
Lalit,
yes.
The slides has not refreshed. So you have to minimize. Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next slide.
Are you able to view
yeah.
the slide?
Now it's there. Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sure. The Azure Traffic Manager. Azure Traffic Manager is just shows with his name is a traffic manager who just manages the traffic in your on-premises network or in Azure, how the way you configured it. So the traffic manager just is route the traffic which is coming to your prod or the web applications or the VMs or the external endpoints you have. So basically it just manage the traffic and route the traffic to the different applications or the load balancer applications. So in one particular applications or one particular VMs or the servers does not have much load, so it just hang out or it just got crashed basically. So it's just manage all the traffic within your production or into the Azure. So the traffic manager has it works for in a 3-way, like Azure endpoint and external endpoint and the nested point. Azure endpoints, the way you configured in the Azure endpoints is just only work for the Azure, whatever the application or the cloud services or the web apps you have configured in Azure. So you can just configure the traffic manager such a way, okay, you need to just manage the things in Azure. But the external endpoints, if you configure the external endpoints, which is allow your application Azure plus on-premises to just load balance and the route the traffic over the internet, and the nested will be used in the more flexible environment. Suppose you have a bunch of services in Azure and a bunch of services in your on premises, and just have a complex network, and you just need to route the traffic between over the internet, and you don't want your products and application to be harmed or the hampered. In such environment, you just use the nested endpoint, so it will be, your environment will be flexible and work accordingly without harming anything. And it has a couple of features which just it will help you to maintain your downtime, and it will allow your on premises and the cloud applications based routing traffic, and you can manage and maintain your cloud availability through Azure traffic. And if you can just look out this uh,
So Lalit, I have one question about Azure Traffic Manager. So, I mean, do we know, when we will use Azure Traffic Manager, or what are, the endpoints that it supports?
So the traffic manager, which will be used for the, basically it is being used for the production applications, and the endpoints which is support, it's a clouds or the IP address based, or the cloud endpoints if you have anything, or the VM, the cloud services is supporting basically.
Okay.
And
So it
and even
supports
though
VM.
the load balancer, if you have a load balancer, or the you have the application gateway, you can configure
Okay.
it as well.
Lalit,
Just one question for from my side, Lalit. I was a little confused because when I studied the traffic manager concept, so are there any profiles that we have to maintain for traffic manager? Like, for example, I have web apps being deployed in two different regions. For example, Southeast Asia and somewhere in Gulf. So by any means, I want there to be a load balancing situation to come into picture. So do I have to create some Azure Traffic Manager profiles, or like just like endpoints that we have in ILB? So what should be the procedure in this case? Just a profile or an endpoint will be required to do that?
So basically the things is the two webs have the two public IP address, right? So you need to create the traffic manager, and then you have to create the Azure endpoint, and you have to just add both the applications while configuring the Azure endpoints. That
Maybe, and I can,
I'll be showing in the demo as well.
yeah, I can take that question, Swami. That's a very intelligent, very excellent question. So like, traffic manager, obviously it helps you to route the traffic. Now, we know it helps you route the traffic, but how and what would decide, the routing method? So Azure Traffic Manager has as you said, is a profile, or, sometime I also called, routing method that you can configure, and it supports 4 methods, depending on how you want, you can configure that. So it has weighted, a profile where, you can assign a certain weight, and you can route your traffic. If you put 50% weight, then, the traffic will be equally shared. Then you have active passive, wherein you can say that it's a priority. It says that this is my first priority and this is second. If first is down, then only go to the second side. The third option that you have is you can set it on the geography. So you can say that, hey, I want the users only from India to access this application, so please restrict the traffic to India. So that's option. So I mean, it supports 4 different options. So it has performance, which is local, location based. It's closest to geography. Then it has weighted. You can split the weight. Then you have IP, which is based on the geography and the location. So in total, it supports 4 profile or routing methodology.
And irrespective of whether it's a virtual machine or a web app, or just the web apps could be used here. I mean, just in case if it is not there, is there a way to tweak it to use it for a VM? I mean, just.
Oh, you can. I mean, if you have
curious.
public IP, yeah, if you have public IP, you can use it.
Okay.
So it supports VM with a public IP, and I need to see if I mean, public IP is must, but it certainly supports VM. If you have public IP web app, anyway it's supported, plus cloud service, which is the old model that you can support. Not only that, it also supports external endpoints. External endpoints, let's say you have DMZ application sitting on-prem and it has a public IP, you can do that. So, suddenly it's all supported there. As long as they have public IP.
Right, because as you said, public IP, so instance level IP address is there in the ARM model. It
So
used
you
to be
can have
right.
So you can have public IP and private IP both, right?
Yes.
So you can assign. So if you have assigned public IP, you can use Azure Traffic Manager. As far as I know, I don't know about the private IP. I really have to confirm that.
No, obviously that is mapped with the public IP itself, because the reason I raised this question is recently we had a. I'm sorry to interrupt Lalit in the middle, but just in case we had a problem where we could not reach up to the VMs from the office network and an RDP session, so we created an ILV so that we could map it to a different port, which is other than the 3389 port, and we could just do an RDP.
Yeah, so ILB is different than the Azure Traffic Manager.
Correct.
Right?
I mean, the question came out of that only.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Neeraj, I want to add something.
Sure. Go ahead.
Traffic manager basically introduced to route the traffic between two different zones. Either it is Azure to Azure or on-premises to Azure, and it will not work with the private IP. It only work with public.
Thanks.
Yeah, but as Shakti, anyways, public IP is masking your private IP anyways. So obviously we will not end up using any private IPs in the VMs itself. But unless there is some requirement of some security issue, I mean, I don't see any other problem in not using.
Yeah, so I mean, the typical use case would be you have Azure Traffic Manager at the top level, and that talks to your internet load balancer, ILB, which I mean, and then internal load balancer in turn talk to your, private VMs with private IPs. That's how you can configure, you can set it up.
Correct.
And you don't need to give public IP to your VMs if you use internet load balancer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one more thing is, since this is going to work on DNS CNAME record, so I don't think it will work for private IP as Ranjan mentioned. Yeah,
that's a good point. All right, let's proceed, Lalit.
Sure. Suppose this another diagram is just we'll work on, and suppose you just wanted and you just configure the contour.com and CNAME would be the contour.traffic.manager.com or AzureAG.com, and then you have just put your all the sites or the three different sites into the traffic manager and configure it. So here you need to just provide the endpoint public IP address for US, EU and Asia Pacific, and it will the way you configured your traffic manager, like it would be a performance based or the regional based, and probably in other ways. So based on that, it'll just route your traffic. So this diagram will show that.
Yeah, that's a good example. So you can see here, your use case would be you have a US endpoint, you have Europe endpoint, and then you have APAC endpoint. If you're a global organization, your web app can be hosted in 3 different locations, and then you configure performance as your Azure Traffic Manager profile or your load balancing, routing method. So in that case, what will happen? User will hit one a global endpoint that will be of Azure Traffic Manager, and you will create a CNAME record basically, and your name will be something like your application name.trafficmanager.net, and then on top of that you create a CNAME record into your website, into your DNS server. And from there you will resolve to Traffic Manager. Now Traffic Manager, depending on if a user is coming from US, it will hit the US website. If a user is coming from Europe, it will get routed to the Europe website. And then, if a user is coming from APAC, Asia, India, or Singapore, it will hit the APAC endpoint. And one thing has to keep in mind that, all these 3 web app has to be in sync in your code and all info, unless you want to render different pages to 3, for people, from different geography. Otherwise, you have to maintain the same code on all the 3 web apps. All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
So now we just discuss about the traffic manager, and this is The another diagram is just if you browse any application, then it's just recursive to the DNS, and it will, if you're just searching here, then it will just go to your recursive DNS and search for this particular website, and based your configuration it just routed to the traffic manager, and then less traffic manager has to choose where has to route the traffic. If it is the performance based or the region based, then just route the traffic or to the particular websites, or it could be that if you're using any external applications, then just go over there. So it will be just coming over here and then going to the client directly and selecting to the endpoint, not through the traffic manager. So basically this is a diagram just show the based on your requirement and how you configure your traffic manager. Based on that, it just route the things over there. So let's just move to the next slide.
Lalit, I have one query.
Yes.
Where we configure this traffic manager profiles?
So,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I have the one web application. It has been hosted in the, as you explained, US, Italy, and Australia. So, if due to the configuration of this traffic manager, where actually we perform this?
So you will go on, I'll take that question for you. So what I understood is you have 3 applications in 3 different regions, and then on top of that you want to configure your traffic manager.
Yeah.
And where would you do that, right?
Yeah.
So you will create Azure Traffic Manager in Azure Portal. So I think, Lalit has a demo. So you go in Azure Portal, and from there you create Azure Traffic Manager. And once the Traffic Manager is created, you can go into the property and the setting of Azure Traffic Manager, and you can, include your endpoints. If it is a web app, you can add all the 3 web apps. If it is your own endpoint which has public IP, you can add those public IPs. And then you can also configure the, performance as is traffic manager profile. So all those settings you have to do through the Azure portal.
Okay, just out of the question, if we are not in the Azure, we are not using Azure, but we have the application, it has been hosted in the different regions.
Okay.
So, maybe it's a
so you will need
question for you, but
yeah. So you will need a Azure subscription at least. You can sign up for a trial. You can sign up for pay-as-you-go model, and you can just consume Azure Traffic Manager. So this has to be consumed out of Azure portal. You can't have your own standalone.
And we have an option in Azure Traffic Manager to add an external endpoints too.
Correct.
So in this case, we can add through. We can select as an external endpoint, and you can mention your endpoint name over there, and it will Azure Traffic Manager automatically will detect the endpoint for you, and it will show you to as an online if it is connected.
okay. Yeah, thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move ahead, Lalit.
Yes, let's move to the Azure Application Gateway. So Azure Application Gateway is a 7-layer of load balancing method which just secure your network or your applications completely.
Lalit.
Lalit, I have one more question on Traffic Manager before moving to Application Gateway. Is that fine?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Neeraj, how nested Traffic Manager will work here?
So that's advanced level of routing that happens, right? So maybe you can have a use case, for example, so let's say in US, you can have a web app in US, you can have web app in Brazil. So on top of these, you can put in a traffic manager, right? Mm-hmm. And then in Europe, you can have one web app in UK and one web app in, let's say, in Europe West. You can put in traffic manager on top of that. Then in APAC, you can have one web app in India and one web app in Singapore. On top of that, you can put in traffic manager. And then finally, now you have 3 traffic manager. You can put in another traffic manager, which will load balance or, rather, DNS balance all these 3 traffic managers. So you can create that nested profile like that.
Okay. Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes. So Azure Application Gateway, it's just this kind of the load balancer. You can say it's a 7-layer, 7-layer protection layer, which is providing for your applications and for your VMs, the web apps, the production apps, and it has the feature of Windows WA Windows application firewall, which just secure your applications, and it has a couple of features which has the web application firewall, and it just load balance your HTTP and cookie based sessions. Suppose you have already cookies, and then just allow your session, and you can just configure the SSL things over here, and it just you can monitor the health, and then it will redirect the request as well. And apart from that, you have the advanced level of diagnostic things while when you just configure the Azure application gateway to your web apps or the VMs or your basically apps applications. And so how this application gateway will work? Suppose if you have an use if you have an if you have an this user and just external user, and you're connecting through HTTPS to the application gateway, and this 3 server you have already, and that is all that the application gateway is already configured, then that this user will send the request to the application gateway, and from the application gateway, based on your rule and firewall and the port or the IP address which you are allowing to connect, based on that it will just head to those 3 servers and route your traffic. Suppose if the unknown traffic or say the malware void or someone wants to hack your environment, and and you just block those IP address, or it is not configured, then all the things would be stopped over here, and it won't route your request to all the VMs over there. The similar way, the another speak over here, and if you just configure the traffic manager on the top of the application gateway, so how it will work? So the request will be routed to the traffic manager, and then traffic manager has to decide with based on the regions, in which regions it has to route the request, either the region 1 or the region 2. And then basically, like if you have a container and they have a lot pics or the videos or other pools, so then application gateway will decide, okay, you're just requesting for the same pic or probably the video, then it just route your request to that particular image pool, and then your request will be processed further. Ines, you want to add?
So maybe I can just add on
Yes.
to into it. So Azure Application Gateway works at layer 7. So most of the people, if you work on production environment, you would have heard of reverse proxy. So like you can say it's a reverse proxy for you. So it has two features. One, it acts as a reverse proxy, plus additionally Microsoft also included a web application firewall feature in it. So as being a reverse proxy, it can help you with SSL termination and SSL offloading, so that you don't your web app doesn't have to do the actual SSL termination, and which will save a lot of CPU cycle for your web app. And application gateway can handle that SSL termination for you. And you can offload your SSL, or you can have end-to-end encryption, whichever way you want. And some of the the benefits that you have if you use application gateway is, as Lalit pointed out, that you can have in different regions. On top of that, you can put in a traffic manager. And that way, you can load balance, and you can route the traffic to the closest location. It also supports URL-based routing or content-based routing. What that means? That means that you can have a pool of servers, one server hosting your images, one server hosting your videos. So based on the URL, so let's say if I have cloudeasy.com/image, it can go to one pool, and web application firewall the application gateway can recognize that and send it to that pool number 1. And if I have cloudeasy.com/videos, it can recognize that extra URL, and it will send to the pool number 2. So that way you can also configure that, and that's on the the reverse proxy side. But it also has web application firewall, which protects your website that you have hosted, and you can basically it's a firewall for your web application. It will monitor traffic, and you can configure the rules. What rules? They are OWASP rule, Open Web Standard. Vulnerability which are there. It's already pre-configured. You can configure those out of the box, and you can also configure your own rules if you want to. So it will monitor all the traffic. If it finds anything malicious, it will drop those packets. If traffic is inspected, and if traffic found to be good, then only it gets forwarded to the backend server. So it's sitting in the front end and monitoring all the traffic.
Thanks, Neeraj. So, anybody has any questions over here, or let's just move to the next slide?
Just one question quickly. So this is about the URL-based routing, which is URL content-based routing. So does that mean that if we have a particular URL here, will it help us to route the content to the destination? I mean, is it like some kind of logic that defines based on that URL where it should be routed to?
Yeah, so in application gateway setting, you can define that, and you can configure those rules, and you can say that image should go to backend pool number 1, and video should go to backend pool number 2.
Okay. Thanks, Neeraj.
Neeraj, one question from my side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Neeraj, you mentioned this Azure Application Gateway is also equipped with Web Application Firewall.
Yes.
So does that mean it also helps in fighting against the DDoS kind of attacks?
Yeah, that's certainly one of the points, right? So as I said, it protects your website, it protects your endpoint. So anything coming towards malicious code or trying to, for example, SQL injection is also one of the cases, and trying to hack into your website, it will protect you against that. So certainly, if you're planning for DDoS, WAF must be in your toolkit.
Okay, thanks.
So Rushkar has a question about SSL. So Rushkar, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correct. So SSL termination. So you have secure socket layer. These are the HTTPS. When you access any website, it goes over SSL. So when you don't have any application gateway in between, your SSL termination will be handled by the web app. So what that means it will receive the encrypted packet, and then it will decrypt it, and then read those content. So that receiving encrypted packet and decrypting, it requires CPU cycle of the decryption of that packet. But if you use application gateway, you are offloading the task of decrypting that to your application gateway. So application gateway will have the certificate installed, and it will take the traffic coming from internet from all places. It will decrypt it, inspect it, and then if it finds it, send it back to the backend pool. So you are not your backend pool or the server doesn't have to spend CPU cycle to decrypt that traffic. Hopefully I answered your question, Ruska. Okay, Lalit, let's move on to the next slide.
Yes, and the next slide would be the Azure Load Balancer, which is our final one over here. And the Azure Load Balancer delivers the high availability and the network performance, and is based on layer 4 applications, and it just manage and balance your VMs, your applications, and to route the traffic, either the internal load balancer or the external load balancer, which protects your applications and maintain the availability of your VMs, your networks, and apart from that, the things would be fallen over here. So suppose if we can say, suppose if we have an public IP address which is just coming to your DNS server, and we just configure a load balancer over here, then this load balancer is decided based on your configuration how you configure the performance or the network, or how the, so it will just route your the traffic to between 3 VMs. So whenever the users hits more into the one VM, then it just automatically route the things to the another another VM, and then to the third one. So suppose an user or the computer or the user is just requested, okay, these are the things would be there, I just they need to access this particular website or the IP address. So how it will work? So if the user would be here and then it's requested, then it will just ask for the source IP and the destination IP and which protocol you use, the port number, and once that all the packets and the load balancer is identify each and everything and the trusted, then only to just go ahead and route to your private IP or the port, and which is there in your these VMs through your cloud applications or your over the internet over here. So can you just move out to the demo, or anybody has any questions over here?
So maybe let me add on something onto it, right? So we talked about Azure Traffic Manager, we talked about the application gateway, and we talked about application gateway, traffic manager, and Azure load balancer. So Azure load balancer is at layer 4, whereas application gateway is layer 7. I think we have a next slide where we talk about the differences between all these three components. But to understand, you can have internal load balancer and internet load balancer. So internet load balancer is when you want to access these VMs with private IPs from public, from internet. In that case, you will go with the internet load balancer, and the top figure which you see on the left side is depicting the internet load balancer. Whereas if you don't have any external endpoints and you really want to be only accessing it from intranet, in that case you can configure a internal load balancer, and that IP can only be accessed via VPN and through internal sources. So that you can do it. And here, what you see, there is a comparison chart between, these three components: Azure Load Balancer, Application Gateway, and Traffic Manager. As you can see, the Azure Load Balancer works at layer 4, which is transport layer, TCP layer. Application Gateway is layer 7. It only supports HTTP, HTTPS, and WebSocket. It doesn't support FTP or any other protocol. It only supports HTTP, HTTPS, and WebSocket. Finally, you have Traffic Manager, which works at the DNS level, which works as the name resolution. It's the intelligent brain behind, resolving it to the right endpoint, and it does it depending on what profile you configure. The protocols that I supported, as I said, in case of load balancer, any protocol is supported. Anything which is on the TCP layer will work, whereas application gateway, it's only HTTP, HTTPS, and WebSocket. And the traffic manager side, any HTTP endpoint, or will work for you for monitoring. Similarly, the VNet support that you can do, so only load balancer and application gateway can be deployed in VNet, but traffic manager cannot be deployed inside the VNet. The endpoints that are supported for Azure load balancer, you can have backend your Azure VMs and cloud service. And for application gateway, you can have any Azure internal IP, which is a private IP, and public internet, and you obviously can have your Azure VM and also. That's what is in nutshell the differences between different load balancers and application gateway and traffic manager.
Thanks, Neeraj. So, anybody have any questions, or we'll just move out for demo?
I just had a question because this was asked about the Azure Traffic Manager's role in ASR. So I was a little confused. I've heard in past also that Azure Traffic Manager does play a part in ASR. So there just can be a brief idea about, does it actually play any role in ASR?
So yeah, I mean, you can make a role for it in your ASR plan. So basically in ASR, what you have your on-prem and you have cloud. Now ASR can be used to replicate your VM workloads from on-prem into Azure. I'm assuming that, and you can use your Azure Traffic Manager to point your website to the internal to the IP which is hosted on your DMZ. And when the ASR, you're using ASR and there is a planned failover, and there is a DR situation and you want to failover, you failover into Azure, and then in the Azure Traffic Manager you can go and flip the IP that it is pointing to. Instead of your on-prem IP, it will point to the IP, public IP, which is hosted in Azure. So certainly it will play a role for your ASR.
Okay. Got it. Thank you, Neeraj.
So now we are just going and moving to the demo, and then the first demo would be I'll be showing that how we can create an Azure DNS. And to create the Azure DNS, first of all, you just have to log into the portal.azure.com and then click on the plus sign and then go to the networking. In the networking, you just go ahead and select the DNS and provide the DNS name. I'll just .com, and I have already a resource manager with me where all the settings and everything would be going in and saving over there. And I'll just go ahead and create one. And the meanwhile, the DNS server is getting deployed and configured. We'll just go ahead and create the traffic manager as well. So basically, for the traffic managers, you have to follow the same things, because as this DNS, traffic manager, and Azure load balancer and application gateway as a part of networking. So whenever you just need to create anything related to the networking, you just go to those signs and just click it over here and just give it the name and the method which we are talking about and working on, how the method will work. The performance based method, by default it just take the performance based if you have the 10 application or the 5 or 10 applications. So based on the performance, it just route the traffic. And the priority, if you just select okay that Asia region is the priority, or these traffics or these websites has been the priority, based on that it will just route your traffic. And the geographic is a region based, either it's in Asia, US, UK, and other. So based on that, you just go ahead and select it and configure it, and we can modify it after creating if it is needed. I'll just go ahead and create the traffic manager. Let me just give you a brief in DNS server which we just already created. So the overview, you just see the resource manager and the name server over here, and how you can just set the record, and probably whenever the DNS server will be created, it will be having automatically these are the records, the name server records and the DNS records and the entry and the expiry date and the TTL time for this particular DNS server. And if you just wanted to go ahead and set the record over here, suppose we having another web applications or the VM, we just need to route through this DNS server. Suppose you can say RCLD as another applications or the servers, and just we need to create a record which is address record, or the AAA record which is used for the IP version 6, and A record is used for IP version 4. So make sure that whatever the IP you are using, you will choose that the IP version 6 would be here, and the A record would show the IP version 4. So don't confuse on that. And apart from that, the CNAME record, which we already talked about, the CNAME record which is used, or the contain name record which is associated with your services, and the MX record and the name resolution record. SRV record, MX record which will be used for the exchange. If you have an exchange server and you just wanted to resolve your exchange server name to this DNS server, you just click over here and type your mail server name and the preferences over here, and the TTL time. TTL will time would be always in hours, minutes, seconds, days and week. How much time you want that server or the applications to be routed or to be ended. So the TTL time till that time is just try that applications for 1 hour, for 2 hours, or for 30 seconds. If it is not matches to the 30 seconds, let's route it to the different network or just give you a result. So basically you just configure the way you configure these records in your on premises. The similar way you just go ahead and create all the records over here. I'll just add that one more record. Took the random IP address. Suppose I have a rcloud server RCLD, the another server or the applications over here. I've just wanted to add this IP address over here. I just don't have to do anything, and it's been just added over here. The similar way you can add up to 5,000 records, and the per record set is just added around 20 or more than that. In a similar way, if you come about the properties, if you just wanted to look at about the properties, you just come to know like where and how this resources has been deployed and the which resource group and the subscription and other part. Even though the lock is a new security feature in Azure, so if you wanted to add a lock so no one can delete your resource or the people doesn't have access, they just read the information, don't make a change and all. And apart from that, the diagnosis and the solve problem which just help you to understand how to solve the problems, basic scenarios of the DNS server. If it is not functioning properly, what are the settings and the things you have to take care of, manage of. So it will just show over here. It just basically shows the basic scenarios which you will be seeing over here. I can't create the DNS server, the SRV records, and apart from that others. And let's move out to the Azure VNet. In Azure VNet, how you are going and setting up the DNS server. The one DNS server which we are using, which is the default provided by the Azure. But the server which I created, that is your own server. So that means that you are bringing your own server or the on-premise servers to the Azure, and you can set up the custom DNS server over here. And suppose you have a public DNS server domain register, and you have told the public probably the godaddy.com or other domain providers, and it is routable over the domain, or just wanted to configure, you just add your DNS server over here and save it, and it will be, so whenever you just going and deploying any VM or any applications that is connecting to your on-premises environment, which will just resolve your host name, and you can just take the remote using the host name. But for this demo, I'll be just using the things over here, the default Azure provided DNS. Neeraj, apart from that, do you want to add anything?
I think Neeraj just dropped off.
Okay, so anybody has any questions now?
Yes, I have a question.
Yep.
Yeah, see, when you are showing up the lock options over there, right? So consider a scenario where you are the network admin or you are the person who is configuring, all right? And you configure the items and you left the company, right?
Yes.
So will that be possible for someone else to make any changes, or will that be possible for someone else to make any modifications?
Yes. So the subscription owner can change based on your RBAC role, or the contributor has a permission to change those things. This is
Okay, so
RBAC. Yes. So basically, when you just create an subscription, you will be providing a service administrator account, and that has probably, if someone is the guy who is, suppose you say a manager who just set up the subscription with his name and he left out the organization and didn't tell anything to anybody. So how you can proceed further? Basically, your question is this. So how we can process further, like we can just go ahead and create the Azure subscription ticket and change the ownership to the current one, or if you are the contributor or the owner, then you can just go ahead and just delete that user. But you can modify it, but you cannot change the administrator. Service administrator or the subscription transfer would be done with the Microsoft support ticket only, because they will be doing
Yeah.
from the end.
I can add to this. Yeah, I can just add
Yes,
to this,
sir.
Lalit. See, it's a very important question, and we take into consideration a lot of things before we do all this stuff in the production, or we design this stuff. Because as we know, we cannot have a single point of failure over here. There could be a position, not just he left, or maybe he's sick, or he's not there, and he's not in a position to share any things, right? Even in those situations, we would still require somebody else to fall back on. So I would rather take a position where I will have more than one users doing it, rather than depending on just one user or one ID only. So I would say the ideal way will be to have a prevention, better than cure situation, where we will have more than one person doing it rather than relying on just one single point of failure. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Lalit.
Yeah, that's the best practice, Amit. Yes, it's always a best practice. Not make one. The service administrator will be one, but you can add the global administrator, owners, and the contributors based on your RBAC role. So suppose you have, so if you have a 2 or 3 managers or the team leads, you just give the access them so they can change, modify it accordingly.
Amit, to add more on this, right? So we will have, per subscription, we will have one account administrator and one service administrator, and we can add 200 co-administrators. So in this case,
Correct.
right, normally on enterprise level, so most of the users will be added as a co-administrator or a contributor or a owner,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so here we will have less chances to whatever you mentioned, that I think if the whoever the person configured and left the organization.
No,
So
my question, my suggestion was, yeah, it was actually from someone else, the question. So I was just putting across your point only, that
yeah.
when we design that we will have not have just one man or one person or one identity handling this. Yeah, you please go on.
yeah, as I mentioned, so only co-administrator can create, and they can also put the logs on everything. I mean, when the co-administrator left, there is no impact here. So only thing is when service administrator or when account administrator is changing the company, during that time there is an changes are required. So during that time we have an option. If it is a service admin left the company, account admin can change the service name or service administrator itself. Still account administrator we have.
Yes, sir,
So
it's not that much easy. I'll just say you the best practice is, whenever you're taking a subscription as an enterprise level, I always prefer and recommend, even though Microsoft recommend, you just go ahead and create one Azure account, a demo account, or probably the production account or the service account in your organization, and put that, and that account has access to all. So if anybody leaves, go, come, out, doesn't matter, because this is the organization owned account. Suppose if I have an organization like cloud.com, xygcloud.com, I just created lalit@xyg.com and added over there. So I have the ownership of this account, and after me, whoever the managers and everyone come, he has the ownership over this. Even though you can change the password randomly if you need it to manage it. So the best practice, whenever you're taking a subscription, apart from the testing environment, best way to just go ahead and create one enterprise level account where you just go ahead and manage all the subscription. So the matter is closed, who came, who went, at all. Or apart from that, if in case we just find out, okay, this is because this similarity on this, then yes, always we just change the subscription to the different service administrator name.
Lalit, the question was for the log, right? So I want to add one thing. See, either you are a service account or owner account or co-admin, anyone can modify the log, and the log is introduced to just to restrict the deletion, any modification. You cannot do any modification in the subscription unless or you remove the lock. So anyone can modify the lock, either he is a co-admin, a service owner, or account admin,
Yes.
whatever.
Because the service administrator and the global administrator and co-administrator, they have almost the similar rights to do so.
Okay, so this
for
is
the lock only.
this is Ranjit. I'm the one who asked that question. However, I don't want to deviate from the topic. I do have another question. The reason is like when we are creating the co-administrator, irrespective of whatever the items which we have it in our plate, you are getting the similar permission across your subscription which you are assigned to, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, in normal enterprise scenario, you won't give co-administrator account permissions for all the batches which you have, like network. There would be a network admin, and there would be a storage admin. There would be like their designations with respect to their portfolio has been already designed. But when we create here as a co-administrator, whether it doesn't matter which area of your enterprise you manage, you are getting the permissions for everything, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So is there any way, like we will discuss that one because otherwise we will go to a different direction.
Yep.
At the end, we will park this question right now. We will discuss at the end once you're done with this one.
Sure. So we'll move it out for the Azure traffic demo. So if you just overview, just shows the routing method over here, and if you just come out and the configuration part. Okay. Now you can just change and modify your based on the things, and the best way to just you understand in a situation, suppose you don't know what the performance method, just you have to click on exclamation mark and it just shows you they use the method when the endpoint is defined, the geographical regions and the priority based, the method you wanted to use, the weightage method, and the TTL would be DNS, time to live, like how many times, how many seconds. They just try and target those things. If you're having a endpoint with the HTTP or HTTPS or the TCP, how you're going and setting up those based on your application and the port number which you wanted to allow over here, and the path. Suppose I have the www.cloudag.com or ourcloud.com/blog, or then you just specify the path over here if you want to hit it into the specific URL. And apart from that, you're having a probing interval, tolerant number of times, and the probe times. So basically this is the health probes endpoint times you just configure internally. So it just configure, either it could be the 10 or probably the failover time, it will be in seconds, or 10 or the 30 seconds. The by default would be the 30 seconds, and the tolerate time you can just increase. It's a 3 times, you can increase number of 10 times or 15 times, and the similarly would be the probe timeout. And how we are going and configuring the endpoint over here, as we have already discussed, if you have an Azure endpoint over here, we have already a 2 VMs which is resides into this. I'll just give you the name over here, and the service basis, cloud services or the public IP. I just say the public IP address over here, and I'll just select the one public IP, and let me quickly add another public IP here. So basically,
correct me if I'm wrong. The endpoint has to be private IP, right? So that is the point.
It should be public IP.
It should be public IP.
Based on your services, the services you are using, the cloud services is used for the old model, the classic model, and the app services which is there. If you created a web applications or the application service slot, which is just used for your deployment model, like before going to the production, when you just create a pre-prod test, the deployment you just wanted to route it over and test it across over the traffic manager, you just use that. So basically we have two public IP address which I just created for the VMs, and once it's just checking the endpoints and it will be configured, and you just say in the properties the all of the rest settings would be the same. And then just will create the so basically just ask you to provide the public IP at the load balancer, how just going and creating. All the steps would be the same over here, and then you just go to the give it the name, and then you need a public IP address to configure the load balancer. Either you can select the static public IP, whatever the public IP you are giving over here, and just give it the name, or the dynamic IP address, which is the dynamic IP address which just got changed automatically once your application is restarted. I'll just take it this and I'll just give it the name. I'll just use my pre-created source manager and creating over here, and in the similar way you'll just till the time it's going and creating, I'll just go ahead and create the application gateway. So basically here you just have to choose, either you need to go for the standard or the web application firewall, and whatever the size you need to select and how many instances would be here, and the subscription. If you just going and selecting over this and just click over here, it will ask a couple more settings, the which virtual network do you want to connect. I'll say okay, I just wanted to select my virtual network, and once you select the virtual network, the subnet IP address which is associated with the virtual network would be automatically selected. And as we don't have the private IP address, we just choose the public IP address, where we are just going and creating the another public IP address for the load balancer for the application gateway. And then here the listener configuration. Listener configuration is nothing but just your HTTPI, or you need an HTTPS. If you select the HTTPS, you need a valid PFX certificate with the name and the password. So as we don't have, just we'll select over the port number 80. We just need to go ahead and configure these applications. I'll just select OK, and you can upgrade anytime these applications to the WFA, or you can just migrate it over. So till the time the application gateway is just getting configured, it will just take 30 minutes. So I have already created an application gateway for you, and it's ready for the demo. As the application gateway, this it is for the monitoring, and let's say it's a configuration part. And you can, if you choose this, you can, as I told, that how you can just move out to the applications or to the, and even though you can just increase the instances if you need it, and it will be like going for 15 instances max here. And then if you just click on the web application firewall add, it is non-upgraded. If you just wanted an upgraded to web firewall, it just ask the which mode you need to be, as either as a detection or prevention. So whenever anyone just hits to your SQL or the web applications, so how it will be preventing. And these are the rules version over here. Just you can select one if you just wanted to configure another one. Okay, these are the things over here. I just there's a default rule. Okay, you just wanted to allow, these are the IP address, or you just need to deny, or so someone cannot access. So basically these are the network configuration. Just you go ahead and select over there. And the backend pool, it's an important pool where you just going and configuring your applications VM and adding accordingly. Suppose if I just wanted to add an IP address or a virtual machine, say a virtual machine. Suppose I have a virtual machine of this. I'll just say okay, add, and another virtual machine, cloud is, and I'll just save the settings over here. Okay, let me just one, and I'll just go ahead and save it, and it's just going and saving these things. So how the application gateway will work, I'll just show you. Okay. If I have a VM, here these are the web application VM. I just wanted to route over here. So in this, and the another one is this, and we just go ahead and select the public IP address over here, and then show you that. Okay. Now these two servers we just put it to the web applications, and let's say this server is just stopped doing something and this applications is not working. So how it will be hit it? Just got started. this, and it will be just routing to this server internet. Okay. And then we'll just talk about the application settings over here. What are the HTTP settings will be there. So as of now, the HTTP settings for the cookie based session is just disabled. So if you just wanted to enable the cookie based session and the runtime and the port number on the HTTP address, you just go ahead and you can use the custom probe as well if you just need it to. And then come to the front-end IP configuration. It's just front-end IP configuration is nothing but it's just the first one is just your public IP address and the private IP address. The private IP address which is not configured, you wanted to choose an IP address and add it to your web application, it will just go ahead and just route it to your public IP address and add. If someone is trying to hit to your public IP private IP address, it just route the applications to your the private IP address. And come to the listener, and here you need in the basic HTTP listener or the multi-site. Suppose you have the 10 or the 15 sites which you just wanted to add over here, you just go ahead and add those all the applications in the front end and choose the host name and the HTTP IP. So from these websites, if you're having a the users from the different region, whenever they just hit, and then this gateway will be taking care and routing your applications towards your web apps. And either you can just go ahead and configure the rules the rule which is the basic and the pathway. The basic rule always for like it will be the listener port or the listener services. You just need to configure over here, as we don't have we don't have anything to be created over here, so we just having this settings over here. But for path based, just basically just go ahead and then just providing the path of your application and the port or the listener port, and then you're selecting the //var/blog.com and just the backend pool and the HTTP settings, where you just go ahead and hit over the internet, and then it's just routed over there. And what are the things you just need to block, or just you need to reroute to the some different things over there. And the health probe is nothing but just it is used to check your applications or the web applications health, and you can just provide over the name and the protocol, which protocol or the HTTP or the HTTPS, and host name and the path and the interval, timeout and unhealthy threshold. If your application is unhealthy for 3 seconds or 3 minutes, just go ahead and just route it to the say okay, it's in 503 error or the 403 error, just send out and results, and the properties will be the same. Apart from that, you just configure the alert and the diagnosed, and you can check the backend health into the web applications level. And let's quickly come to the load balancer. Front-end IP would be the same as it is working with the web applications. So if you wanted to just check out the properties of this, it will be always the public IP address would be here, and which is this IP address is not unassigned IP address only will be taking over here. And if you just go and check the backend pool, and here you just go ahead and add your virtual machine and associated with the availability set, So the best practice is always, if you're just going in configuring the load balancer, it should be an availability set, so it has the properly configured, and then your VM is continuously running without any interruption, and your product's environment won't be harmed at all. So just I'll select over here, and the name. So I have this. I already created two VMs with the availability set. I'll just say load balance 1. I'll just quickly adding. You can as number of SVMs over here. So they will be load balance each other. Now what these things has been added, and similar way as for the health probe and the load balancer rules, which is just you need to just set the front end IP address, and then you just want those applications or the rules has been heading to the port 80 and the port 80 and the backend IP address and the backend pool and session should be persist. You can add the rule like that, and inbound net rule, which is just used to just use for your IP version 4, or the custom rules or the port which you just wanted to allow the FTP, SSH or the SMTP port, as HTTPS, IMPS, and apart from that, cover couple of more the dynamics ports you just wanted to allow your dynamics applications to be work on, or the SQL ports or the SMTP ports, POP3, and apart from that, whatever the ports would be there, you just add it over here, and just you have to uh, assign it to here and associate it with your applications, and then it will be worked out. And apart from that, I think we just 20 minutes more. So I just completed the session here, and if you have any questions, it's for another for 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, please ask.
Okay. Thank you, Ladit. This is the same question which I asked earlier, so I'm just picking it up from where we stopped.
Sure.
So regarding the service co-administrator, we have multiple co-administrator coming up. So by default, the co-administrator would be shared the same scale of permissions which we have. If that is the case, is there any way where we can create co-administrator with respect to the departments which they belongs to, and assign permissions or revoke permissions so that they won't mess up with the situations?
Yes, you can assign. You can always assign the co-administrator based on the departments. So basically, the co-administrator features is used in classic model, where you just just go ahead and go to the settings, and then I'll just select the permission tab or the administrator tab and just add it. So apart from the first administrator which the account you used to create the subscription, that will be the default administrator or the service administrator, and you can just add 100 co-administrator into the subscription. But if you just go ahead and you just use your guys over here and the subscription, because this is another topic. So just you can provide the permission as a contribute permission over here.
Lalit, may I know what is the question?
The question is, can he add with the separate departments a co-administrator and give them the permission so they can manage their departments, correct?
Yeah, you are right, because basically that would be the way where you can protect the scales over here, right?
Yes, you can. And apart from that, the best feature is you just use the RBAC options, which is I was showing over here. Let me just show it to you. You just go and click on the subscription, come over here, IAM. It will show all the roles, and you can add this organization ID and select the roles based on your requirement, and even though you can select the roles on application based. Yes, go ahead and okay. Here's
So
all the
basically,
roles.
if you are providing So basically, if you're providing co-admin access to the users and categorize into the different departments, the access label is same for all. So you can categorize by using a group in the AD. Create a group in the AD, like this is for storage team and this is for networking team, and provide IAM access by using IAM, role-based access control.
Yes, it can be done. Yes, you just go ahead and create, but it should be in Azure AD, not in your on-premises AD.
Yeah, that is a problem. So when we are
Yes.
creating in Azure AD, it would be possible, but from on-prem, you won't be able to explore those accounts and bring it over here.
No, no I think Ranjit, we can still do that. So if you bring in identity management into the picture, then absolutely there is a way to do it. See, when I said in the beginning that we need to plan in advance when we say co-admins or giving more than one access, right? So this is one way, but that is definitely not the structured way of doing it, right? Please correct me whenever I'm wrong in going wrong in this direction. So what I believe is that we would have to sync up our local AD with Azure AD if we have the intention of managing different aspects, different resources in the AD. Because what happens is there are two requirements here. The number one, the requirement is that we would require it to be managed in different permissions, right? We'll give different permissions to different people. The second requirement is that we require those people to use their on-prem IDs. So when we are constructing such a resource, I would really believe and strongly believe that we should definitely have an Azure AD there in place. So what does it do is that it gives you the liberty to use your on-prem accounts to manage this stuff right there in Azure. Whether it's not, I mean, what people have an assumption is that its entirety is just for the sake of custom apps on Azure, but that is not true. It can definitely be utilized in this direction, where you can give them the access which is required to touch base, or the permissions that you require to handle certain levels here. Right? This is one way. The other way, I believe, I'm sure that would be in place, there is Azure AD domain services can be utilized in this situation as well. Right? So the idea here is that if you wish to use your on-prem IDs, let's use Azure AD, sync up with the Azure AD using Azure AD Connect, or federated access to the Azure AD Connect to the on-prem AD, and then definitely people using their own accounts can easily do the stuff there. And I can have an example. Just to give you an example of this is a wonderful example as Azure Stack. So when you create Azure Stack, normally it also creates an Azure Active Directory account there in your Azure. So why is it so? Because you could actually manage two things in the hybrid structure. So eventually it's a hybrid structure that you're doing. So I believe this would be the right approach.
Yes.
If anybody
Agreed.
wants to add.
Yeah, agreed, Amit. So there is a challenge which comes up in some of the areas. Basically, some customers are not ready to get their AD up to there. They just want to see how the permissions model works, how it is working out. It can be considered as a POC initially. They just want to evaluate to the core, saying that, hey, this is a trusted solution where we can go in. And they basically wanted to understand from a permissions and role perspective to see how it's been assigned, how we can revoke, assign, all those, whatever the permutation combination which we can think about. They bring up everything. We can't
Absolutely.
say,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
So that is the time. How do we, like, one question definitely they will say, hey, co-administrator, everybody has all the permission. So why do we say that? Right? So how at a high level, how do we define it, and how, like, there would be some I should not use this word, but I'm still using it. There would be some cheat sheets which says that, hey, this is a permission model, or these are the general public available roles and rules which we can use. If we have someone, if someone has something similar to that, that would be great. So hey, in an Excel format, this is a role, This is the permissions, and these are the rules which we can use it for assigning permissions for these groups.
Yes, so Ranjit, basically for this, you just go ahead and use for role-based or the RBAC which I have shown. You can just, in the application level, you just provide the permissions and the contributors permissions which can be used, your team leads or probably the manager, and the owner if you wanted to be a project manager owner or the VP you just added, or you could be the owner and you can do stuff all, so you can add those permissions and you can stop others to not do modify, create and delete anything. And apart from that, in the security center there is a good feature which is called as a PIM, and which is has a JIT, just in time utility, which the rules you have to configure, so which will allow your users, the AD users, to audit and allow the NSG or the rules accepted or rejected during this particular time frame. And when someone is trying and connecting from your PCs to the Azure or your network, you just allow the things over here. And even though you can see what user is doing while configuring the PIM, you can see which user has done what activity, what he has deleted, what he has configured, when he is logged in, what the time he is logged in, why he is logged in, either he is logged in during the office hours or out of the office hours. You can see a lot more things. So these are the comes into the security centers. So the things is you have all in place in Azure, but the things is just we are elaborating everything over here.
Yeah, I think it just opens up a very good debate here, because while you were explaining it, I was just visualizing the entire environment over here. Let's see, when you say we can do that, see, what I have actually just made up in my mind is we have a security group which is made up in AD, right? So Ranjit, I would also like you to come in, right? Okay, so I'm just explaining in this way is that we have a AD group created in the environment which is specifically to target certain things in the Azure, and they are the team who are supposed to work in Azure only, for example, right? So I created that group there, or global or whatever the local domain group or global group is there. So we created that group, security group for the people there. So these people are there in this group. Now we have also created an Azure AD which is actually syncing that group and has these members in the Azure AD. Now there are two things, right? Now one thing is that you have that group there in the Azure AD which is synced and is there and replicating, and is a non-Microsoft.com account that is already created there. You have your own custom domain. You actually map it to the custom domains. So you have that same domain ID there. So what you do is you have a delegate, not delegate, but federated access, right? So that members of that group are replicated to that one, right? And they are the ones who have the access. And in the role-based access where you have contributors and all, you can add those IDs there, right? So what eventually is happening is you're not doing anything extra, or you're not maintaining another list of IDs there apart from your own on-prem IDs. You're just using your own on-prem IDs to actually access it. Now, it is not just for the sake of ease of access or ease of doing operations. It is also maintaining the security, because only is one set of people who is doing it. On top of it, as Lalit had explained about the security center, I would add on to this and use the Azure AD reporting features, where you have a lot of options to audit things. And you are auditing there itself, right? So you are providing another layer of security and the consistency with the same group of people who are actually doing it and are designated to do that stuff. So now next features of securing the entire network is a different story. But if you take in terms of the permissions, I think you create the permissions, RBAC permissions there with a certain IDs, and those IDs are actually synced up with your on-prem accounts or on-prem accounts which are part of a security group there in your Active Directory. So Ranjit, can you just put some light here, or probably you see how do you see that thing?
Yeah, so I appreciate for your suggestion. However, see, the problem realizes, or the constraint which we hit here is syncing up our Active Directory to Azure. So most of the customer, wherever I have gone, when they don't want to do that right away. They are hesitant to do that right away, and they want to say, hey, we can spend some dollars and we can spend some money to bring up the Azure, You show us, you create the VMs, you create whatever you are gonna say it here. Just do it and show us. So then that being the test case for them, and they want to evaluate for 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months or something. That is the way it's coming up. So far, I have seen nobody is right away ready to, hey, okay, let us just create the ADFS or AD connector, whatever connectivity, and bring it over
The
here. No,
reluctance for a hybrid structure, right?
absolutely, they are not ready to do it. They want to evaluate first and then go for it. That is the time where we have to showcase the capabilities of Azure to make sure that it serves the purpose for the company. Then they will open up saying that, okay, let's go to the next phase, third phase, two phase. So everything will come up. So that is a place where I'm trying to see, hey, Azure ready, or we can sync up. It's beautiful. It's done. One-stop solution. But if that is not there, then how do we assign the permissions, create the rules, create the roles and rules, and give it back to them, saying that now you play around and see whether this person can do anything differently other than what we suggested or what we defined.
Correct. So I think still there is a way. As I said, the other option of AD domain services, which was entirely managed domain controller, and that is actually hosted in Azure, and it's definitely not required that you should sync up your existing AD environment to Azure. So I mean, why I'm every time using this concept of the AD is because it's an inbuilt hierarchical permission structure and architecture, so we don't have to do much head banging on this. And if you have AD domain, not just Azure AD, just let's leave Azure AD out of the picture right now. So if you have permissions, you have contributors and all IDs that already created. So you can have the Azure AD domain services, right, hosted in Azure, which is primarily to just host the Azure domain controller or managed domain controller. Probably created IDs there and could be used to be a part of the contributors or service administrators in the RBAC role or the RBAC hierarchy, and then probably be used further as a security measure. Because see, Ranjit, I give you another example of this, and it's not exactly the way that you have brought up, but it's on the similar lines. It is the example of an Azure app which the developers did develop and had the same apprehension of security concerns. So the idea was that they would use some sort of an AD or some sort of security architecture mechanism where they will authenticate the web app and then go to the Azure storage to fetch the details and then work on it. However, the other challenge was of the keys that there and the storage are there, which are consistent. So they introduce another automation to do a key rollover, which is stored in the vault, and then the application will go to the vault, fetch the keys, access the storage. But before doing all that stuff, it has to authenticate with the Azure AD mechanism or some AD structural mechanism. So there they introduce this aspect that probably you can either use Azure AD, completely Azure AD, not syncing with the on-prem at all. Not at all syncing with the on-prem. You create your Azure AD, there is a directory structure, create an ID there, use the ID also there in the RBAC structure. Or else you have Azure AD domain services, create IDs there, use the same ID to have a contributor access or a service administrator access there, and probably use this. So Lalit and Ranjit, can you just see if it as one of the options or it still has some loopholes in it?
No, I don't think so. There's any loophole because even though from the different domain, the domain services which is supported, like the people from the external organization, I see the couple of customer using domain name services. They're just allowing Facebook or the Google IDs or the other IDs, other domains to just secure their network. So we can use it in such a way. So it will be always secure and working for the people, and it will be like if the customer or the users, like we done couple of Office 365 migration, so that cannot be done without migrating to the users. But just the things is we just need to inform to the customer how secure the AD is and how you can make more secure your users, because in the first time if you ask anybody, no one is going to just believe, okay, why should I, because I have an on-prem, it is secure, so no one is going to. But here we just need to make understand the customer, okay, sir, your data or your services would be secure over here. So and in such a way the customer will be agree. because just we need to just give up a little bit knowledge of the features which he's getting with the less price and in a secure way. Amit?
Yep. So yeah, that would be the like futuristic point of, not futuristic point, I should say, not say that would be the ideal world to start off.
Yes, sir. So
But
even I
yeah,
see a couple of customers, they have a very much concern about the security and the data and all, but still they are migrating to the Office 365. And then a small organization which is, comes from the US, UK and other countries, they just wanted to learn Azure or migrate to the, and they're integrating their Active Directory services over there. So the things is just
Yeah, you're right.
to
Yeah, you're
elaborate.
right, Lalit. Mhm. Why I say, because I was a part of that O365 migration team, and I could see they were achieving the 1 million mailbox target in a very short span of time. So the why I'm taking this example is because, see, if somebody is doing it and there are a lot of people are following that thing, so you definitely get an idea. Because right now at this point in time, Azure is kind of a ripe fruit, right? So people don't have to be skeptical about tasting this fruit. So they have some stories already there in place to look for. So I mean, it's not that tough when you started Azure, right? It's not that tough right now to convince people. Number one. Number two, obviously, I know what. From where you're coming, Ranjit, having those experiences of security, there are certain people, there are certain enterprises who are a little more cynical and more concerned about their security issues and the problems that they might come across, because especially when this Azure thing is there on the internet. Obviously, I mean, we cannot suggest them to use an express route in this scenario just because to secure their stuff, or just we cannot straight away head them towards a VPN structure and all, because obviously the first thing that I would also agree with Ranjit and Lalit also, that our idea is first to convince them on the basis of security, because that will reduce the impact that they might come into or they might experience, because they would have to use other measures in networking to secure their environment. So obviously that has to be taken into consideration. I mean, I'm just, the example that I quoted, I'm just visualizing in my head whether how good these examples would be, how good these examples would be, how feasible these examples would be in a situation where we can avoid the customers to take up the options of express routes, or the options of VPN, where in case of VPN you're compromising on performance, in case of express route you're compromising on cost. So these two options, I mean, obviously if you have to avoid those, we would have to definitely look into other options of security. I'm just still searching for them, but these are the ones that I had in my mind. I wanted to visualize them.
Yes, I'm just working on this part, the security part, and even though you can encrypt your disk, VMs, storage account, lock it out. Now I have in a security center, when I just 1 year back as an OMS part, you have just for monitoring, but now you can audit each and everything what's going in your environment, including automation. So that's a separate part which we just took over into the OMS, as we already have been 2 hours in the call and 1 hour we exceed. I would like to end up the call. Is it fine,
Yeah,
Ranjit
sure.
and Amit?
yeah, no,
Lalit, I missed it.
So I'm just
no,
saying this. It's been 1 hour, more than 1 hour. We just extend,
Ah,
extend our call, and it's
yeah, it
been a
happens every
nice
time nowadays.
discussion. Yes, and I really love to, enjoy this discussion and really appreciate those questions, because
Thank you, Lalit.
we are
Yeah,
in
we
the
all have to
world.
contribute to make it
Yes,
successful. Yeah.
yes.
yeah.
We
So
are in the
before
world where the questions would be
yeah,
asked.
before we Lilith and Amit, before we wind up, I just want to shoot a question for the thought, since you brought up
Yep.
this point. So
Sure.
yeah, when we bring up the security center in premises, and when we bring up
Uh-huh.
uh, the structure for recovery and all those stuff, there are some limitations right now with respect to the managed disk and non-managed disk, which is also playing a
Correct.
crucial role in the
Mm-hmm.
VMs and
Mm-hmm.
all those stuff. So this is
Correct.
just a thought for it right now. So I have those questions, I have those challenges in front of me, so I can share it. I can share it in our forum
Wonderful.
to get how do we bring those things, like as you said, the storage permission, storage keys, and storage assignment, where unmanaged disk is not possible to convert it in a managed disk if it has been security encryptions has been done, storage encryptions has been done. So there are some areas which I do want to post it. So we will discuss it in the forum. And thanks for this wonderful platform. And let us thank for your session, and see you.
Thanks, Ranjit. You just always ping us, Amit, me, Neeraj bhai, and if you have any specific questions, or our Azure Talk form will be always a good to just ask questions, where we have Sakti and Vivek Mishra.
Yeah, because Lalit, the thing is,
yes.
Yeah, Lalit, the thing is that it's a little difficult to type all the time in the mobiles for the Azure Telegram app. It's a little difficult. When people ask questions, there's a long answer, and I'm really short of things. I try and find. Most of the times I end up writing wrong spellings. So I actually have to listen and say. I try to see if I can send a voice message, and it's not good to send a voice message every time. So that's why I use this platform to ask questions and try and answer them.
I think it's going to be each and every session from the next time would be enjoyable, and then we have more questions. And I really appreciate all of you who joined, who didn't join, and the recording would be available, and probably in 1 hour or so, once I'll just work with Neeraj. And thank you so much, Ranjit.
Thank you, Lalit, and thank you, everyone.
And thanks everyone to joining such a wonderful session. Have a great day.
You too, guys.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.